As she entered the house, she found her younger sister Joyce waiting at the foot of the stairs, her face pale and her hands trembling. Sister Grace, I need to tell you something, Joyce began, her voice low and hesitant. Grace frowned, slipping off her heels. What is it, Joyce? What happened? Joyce glanced over her shoulder, ensuring no one was listening. It's Zara and Annabel. I was preparing lunch when I heard noises coming from Annabel's room. When I went to check, I saw them naked. Zara ran out when I opened the door. Grace's chest tightened, her breath catching as the words sank in. Are you sure? They're only 9 years old, Joyce. This doesn't make sense. I'm not lying, Joyce replied firmly. I know what I saw. Grace's legs wobbled as she sank onto the staircase. Her daughters had always been close, inseparable since birth. But this? It was unthinkable. Grace had always been a pillar of strength, a mother, wife, and a thriving textile trader in the bustling city of Kano, Nigeria. Her shop at the city's vibrant market was her pride and joy, but it often left her drained. Between haggling with customers and dealing with the chaotic streets, her days felt like a never-ending whirlwind. Yet something felt off that evening. The air carried an unsettling stillness that gnawed at her instincts, prompting her to head home earlier than usual. The compound, usually alive with the hum of generators and children's laughter, was eerily silent as she pushed open the rusted gate. Grace's heels clicked softly against the pavement as she stepped inside, her sharp eyes scanning for her twin daughters, Zara and Annabel. As she entered the house, she found her younger sister Joyce waiting at the foot of the stairs, her face pale and her hands trembling. Sister Grace, I need to tell you something, Joyce began, her voice low and hesitant. Grace frowned, slipping off her heels. What is it, Joyce? What happened? Joyce glanced over her shoulder, ensuring no one was listening. It's Zara and Annabel. I was preparing lunch when I heard noises coming from Annabel's room. When I went to check, I saw them naked. Zara ran out when I opened the door. Grace's chest tightened, her breath catching as the words sank in. Are you sure? They're only 9 years old, Joyce. This doesn't make sense. I'm not lying, Joyce replied firmly. I know what I saw. Grace's legs wobbled as she sank onto the staircase. Her daughters had always been close, inseparable since birth. But this? It was unthinkable. Steeling herself, she climbed the stairs and found the twins seated on the couch. Their innocent faces lit up as they saw her, running to hug her. Zara, Annabel, Grace said gently but firmly. Auntie Joyce told me something happened today. I need you to tell me the truth. The twins exchanged confused glances. What did she say? Annabel asked cautiously. She said you were naked in your room together, Grace replied. The room fell silent. Zara shook her head vigorously. That's not true, Mama. We didn't do anything. Yes, Mama, Annabel chimed in. Auntie Joyce is lying. Their conviction left Grace conflicted. Joyce wasn't the type to fabricate stories, but the twins' innocent faces made her doubt everything. That night, sleep eluded her. What if something deeper was going on? Weeks passed, and life seemed to return to normal. Yet, an unsettling feeling lingered in Grace's heart. One afternoon, while organizing Zara's wardrobe, she stumbled upon something that sent her mind racing, a dildo hidden among Zara's neatly folded clothes. Her breath caught as she pulled it out, her heart pounding with disbelief. Zara! She called, her voice sharp and filled with urgency. Zara appeared hesitantly at the door. Yes, Mama, she asked, her voice cautious. Holding up the dildo, Grace's eyes narrowed. What is this doing in your wardrobe? She demanded. I don't know, Mama, Zara stammered, her face flushing. Maybe Auntie Joyce put it there by mistake. Grace studied her daughter's face, searching for the truth, but her gut told her there was more to the story. The uneasy shadow over their home suddenly felt heavier than ever. Grace's stomach churned. Her husband Brian dismissed her concerns, calling them baseless, but the unease wouldn't leave her. She decided to take matters into her own hands. Grace had always trusted her husband Brian, but lately, something felt off. It started with subtle changes, his sudden late-night meetings, the distant look in his eyes, and the odd way he seemed distracted at home. Her instincts told her something wasn't right. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to take matters into her own hands. Without informing anyone, she installed discreet cameras that covered every corner of their home. She told herself it was for her peace of mind, to ensure her children were safe, and everything was as it should be. Days passed and life carried on as usual. Grace reviewed the footage in private, watching for anything out of place. Most of the time, everything seemed normal, until one day. That afternoon, Grace returned home earlier than expected, her heart heavy with a mix of curiosity and dread. As she entered the house, it was unusually quiet. She set her bag down and climbed the stairs, pausing briefly when she heard muffled sounds coming from their bedroom. Her breath hitched and her pulse quickened. Step by careful step, she made her way to the top of the staircase. Just as she reached the final step, the bedroom door creaked open slightly. Grace froze. Her husband Brian stepped out, his shirt half buttoned and his face pale as he saw her standing there. "Babe, what are you doing here?" he stammered, his voice unsteady. Grace's sharp eyes took in every detail: his wrinkled trousers, the loosely hanging belt, his disheveled hair. Something was terribly wrong. She stepped closer to him, her gaze unwavering. "I came home early too," Brian blurted out, shifting uncomfortably under her piercing stare. "I wanted to check on the kids, just to see if they were doing anything crazy." Grace said nothing, her heart pounding in her chest. She brushed past him and rushed into the children's rooms to confirm his story. In her daughter's room, she found the girl sitting on her bed holding a book. But there was something off about their posture, the way her eyes flickered nervously as they looked up from the pages. "Hi, Mom," they said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach their eyes. Grace's stomach twisted. Her children's behavior felt staged, as though they were hiding something. Her motherly instincts screamed that this wasn't just about the kids anymore. It was bigger. She returned to the hallway where Brian stood, his back turned to her, fiddling nervously with his belt. Grace's mind raced. The next day, Grace returned home earlier than expected. The house was eerily silent again. Her heart raced as she climbed the stairs. She hesitated at Annabel's door, hearing faint sounds. Pushing the door open, she froze. Her daughters were lying naked on the bed, their small bodies intertwined. "What is this?" Grace screamed, her voice cracking with anger and sorrow. The twins scrambled to cover themselves, tears streaming down their faces. "Mama, we didn't do anything bad," Annabel sobbed. Grace's rage subsided, replaced by confusion and heartbreak. That evening she confided in Brian. He too was horrified but struggled to accept the reality. The next day, Grace reviewed the hidden camera footage. What she saw left her trembling. Grace replayed the footage in her mind, her heart pounding with a mix of disbelief, rage, and profound sorrow. The betrayal was layered, cutting deeper with every thought. Brian, her husband, the man she had trusted with her life, had shattered the sanctity of their home. And Joyce, her younger sister, who had once been like a daughter to her, had driven the dagger even deeper. But the most devastating part was how their actions had tainted the innocence of her children. By morning, Grace's emotions were a storm waiting to be unleashed. She had barely slept, her mind racing with the implications of what she had seen. As Brian sat at the breakfast table, sipping his tea as if everything was normal, she felt a surge of anger boil over. Slamming the laptop on the table, she pressed play on the incriminating footage. Brian froze, the color draining from his face. Joyce, who had just walked into the room, gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "How could you?" Grace's voice was raw, trembling with rage. "How could you betray me like this? In our own home, under my roof with my sister?" Brian fumbled for words, his usual composure crumbling. "Grace, it wasn't like that. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for this to happen." "A mistake?" Grace's voice rose, her fury igniting. "You didn't just trip and fall into her bed, Brian. You made a choice. Both of you did." Joyce, tears streaming down her face, fell to her knees. "Sister Grace, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please forgive me. I don't know what I was thinking." Grace glared at her sister, her heart breaking all over again. "You don't know what you were thinking. You knew exactly what you were doing, Joyce. You've destroyed this family. You've ruined my children's lives." As the confrontation spiraled, Brian tried to deflect responsibility. "Grace, let's talk about this calmly. Think about the girls. We can't let this break our family." Grace's eyes blazed with indignation. "Break our family? You already broke it, Brian. And do you even know what your actions have done to our daughters?" She then revealed what she had pieced together, that the twins had witnessed the affair through the slightly ajar door. Her voice cracked as she recounted how their innocent minds had tried to replicate what they had seen, unaware of its gravity. Brian's face contorted in horror. The girls! They saw? His voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Brian, they saw, and now they think this is normal. This is what you've done to them. Joyce sobbed uncontrollably, but Grace was unmoved. Her gaze shifted between the two culprits, the weight of their betrayal bearing down on her. I want both of you out of my house, she said, her voice cold and resolute. Today. Brian protested. Grace, please, let's fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. Fix what? Grace cut him off sharply. You've ruined everything, Brian. You and Joyce don't belong here anymore. By afternoon, Brian and Joyce had packed their belongings. The tension in the house was suffocating as Grace avoided looking at either of them. When they finally left, the silence felt deafening, but it was a relief to Grace. The physical presence of the betrayal was gone, but the emotional scars were far from healed. That night, Grace sat her daughters down. She struggled to find the right words to explain the chaos that had unfolded. My darlings, she began, her voice soft but firm, what you saw was not right. It was wrong, and it's not something you should ever do or think is okay. The twins looked up at her with wide, tear-filled eyes. Are we bad, Mama? Annabel asked, her voice trembling. Grace's heart broke at the question. She pulled them close, wrapping her arms around their small bodies. No, my loves, you're not bad. None of this is your fault. I'm going to make sure we're okay. Who do you believe bears the most responsibility for the turmoil in Grace's life? Is it Joyce, her sister, or Brian, her husband? Share your opinions in the comments below. If this story made you as upset as it made me, tap the like button. Let's keep the discussion going in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe for more engaging stories like this.